Our next presenter is Archana Chaudhary. Archana, I'll let you talk about your talk.
Is this mic? Okay. So thank you for giving me a chance to present on a roundtable topic today. We were about 10 or 12 people in a room, and we thought we discussed the topic of documenting the automation test coverage. So we all have a lot of legacy test cases that we may have taken from some other team prior to us, and then there are like lot of Java JUnit test cases or API test cases or maybe UI regression test cases, and there is no way to know for us that what is the coverage from those automation test cases, so that we can give an idea to the new people who are adding the test that where to start from. So in the discussion, what came up? The first thing is, why should we even think about documenting the coverage? And some of the questions were that we want to know what are the workflow and features that are already covered by the automation tests that we have. And there are at times when we want to map what has been automated to what was actually in the specs and requirements. So that, like for my team example, we have in the definition of done that we should have the automation complete. What does that mean? How many of the specs and requirements have we covered by the automation tests which are done? Then there are most of us work in monolithic code bases, meaning that even if we are working in smaller Scrum teams, we are contributing to essentially the same main code base. And what if a team is developing a set of integration tests and another team is developing a set of another integration test, but they are duplicating the effort. So documenting the test cases in some way help reducing in the duplication of the automation effort. It will also give the developers an idea of suppose they want to run the tests for a particular module and they come and ask a question, which tests can I run for this part of the application? A good documentation will avoid those kind of questions, and there should be a way by which the developers will be able to pinpoint to a specific area and will be able to use the automated test framework to validate their own work. So some of the typical problems that we know like were discussed in the discussion were that when we are dealing with manual tests from like written by legacy manual QA testers and we are trying to automate them, there is not a one-on-one correlationship with what is a manual test to how you can automate it. So a manual test documentation does not serve as a documentation for what has been covered in the automated tests. And code coverage does give us some information about what coverage that we have in the modules, but it does not specifically test whether it does not it's not specific to the functional parts of the application. It can pinpoint to how the code base is organized, but if your organization, if you are looking for like from an organization from feature perspective or from workflows perspective, code coverage may not be able to give you that data. So some of the recommendations that came up from the group was that using good class names, and of course will be the most helpful thing, because all the reports, test reports will show the class names as the first thing which somebody can take a clue from. Writing some level of Java docs on your test cases will be helpful. Now there is a cost and benefit for writing Java docs. You can go extensive and your documentation itself will become a maintenance. So that balance needs to be maintained. Some people are using the logging techniques in the page object patterns, that in the page object patterns, when they are for each and every action that a page is taking, they are logging that, so that when the test is running, it is very easy to debug to see exactly which particular action caused the failure, and then it is easier to go back and to debug and triage the particular test. So a second recommendation was that we should write tests which are smaller. So yes, big integration end-to-end tests not only becomes flaky, but are also difficult to document in the sense that you don't know how much is that test covering. So writing it smaller, like smaller test cases, breaking it into smaller pieces will help pinpoint to the specific problem. If there is a problem only in the initial part of your workflow, the test will catch it rather than the test running and then failing. You are figuring out, okay, end-to-end test flow breaks, but we don't know which part broke. And then it's very important that the development engineers who are writing the features themselves take the ownership of writing the tests, because in this way there is no handover between the software developers and the software test engineers or the quality engineers who have to sit down together and to understand what, like tell me what to write the test for. So it's more, instead of having more like communication channels, stand-up meetings and all, the best thing is to have the development engineers write the test. But if it is not possible, have as many daily stand-ups and things like that, so that there is a communication going between the developers and the people who are writing the test to know that the tests are meaningful and are covering what the developers wants to cover in the tests. There, somebody mentioned the tools like test rails and all. There was also a methodology. I didn't get that properly. This talk happened half an hour at 2 o'clock, so there was not much time to prepare the presentation. But if you need to know more, there is a tool called test rails, and I'm sure the person who mentioned it must be in the crowd somewhere here. We did take a tangent in the discussion, and we talked about the Android native apps, and one of the persons in here is working on a tool which is based on the technologies. I'm not sure if I captured the words correctly, EMMA and the .em files, which are basically to do coverage from the black box testing that is happening on a mobile Android device. So it is like a code coverage, but it's gathering the data from the manual tests that are happening in a particular run when you are running your test on the Android device. And the person mentioned that combining this data with the code coverage data that you are getting from your unit test will give you a good summary of what is the coverage from your testing, like overall testing. Now, this is specifically for the unit, for the manual test, but are run on the Android devices. Yeah. I think I had one more like one more slide, but maybe we also talked about one more topic which, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. I think there was a talk about how the business analysts, when they are giving the requirements, there are some people who are using the tools in which the business analyst requirement are automatically converted into automated tests. And now these automated tests are used by developers to do test-driven development. So that now there is a flow not directly from a business analyst to a developer, but through the automated tests, which actually gives them a way to know what to actually code instead of just giving like getting pure English business analyst documentation. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering 2 quick questions. On recommendations, did you guys discuss getting stakeholder buy-off on the time it's going to take to actually document the tests? And then the second one is, I got to remember now. It's along the similar vein. How do you justify adding the time into the sprint for the documentation time it's going to take?
We did not discuss these topics, but I can share you with my personal experience that is happening in the group. So as far as the shareholder input, I am the engineering manager of the group. And because this is a problem, I do allow that to happen, because it ultimately helps when you look at the same test cases 1 year from now. It may not seem most useful right now, but 1 year from now, when you are still working on the same product, if there is a new set of developers or a new set of test engineers who come on the board, it will be easier for them to pick up what has already been done. The second thing was how do we incorporate it in the sprints? What we have done right now is that we have taken few stories which are technical depth stories and have put, okay, let's put Java docs into each and every page object file. And that has helped in two ways, that the people who took over these stories were the newcomers to the team. So not only it helped them understand what the page objects that are written already, so that when they have to actually write the test, they will know what is available, and it will help the future people to know better. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, Archana.
Thank you.
Huge thanks.